And welcome again to Antiques Masterclass. I'm Addison Gelpie, and today we've got John Bly, who's going to be talking about the history of furniture part 2. John, thank you so much again for coming in, sir.
It's all right. It's a pleasure. Today we're going to take that most important part of change in design from the old Rococo, the first 65, 70 years of the 18th century, into the last quarter of the 18th century and up to about 1830. This takes in the great style change between Rococo and Neoclassicism. And that lasted as an undercurrent right the way through until 1830. But on top of that came the Regency, which is really quite a complicated thing. So we're going to look at that in as much detail as we can, get as near to Victoria as we can, and then hopefully that will lead into the next talk. So let's make a start here and just have a brief recap. You remember we were talking about the mid-1750s, 1760s, big cabriole legs, claw and ball feet, nice sort of vase shape to the back. Let's just go see what happened in country furniture. We were looking at more ordinary pieces. Mm-hmm. There is the Chippendale, so-called ribbon back, a simplified country version. This is what most people have and collect from that period, 1760, 1765. Then we started to excavate. We explored in Italy and up to a point in Greece, because we couldn't get into Italy, trouble with Napoleon, right? And by the 1750s and 60s, we had discovered for the first time what the ancients lived with, what their houses looked like. We knew what was above ground, the Parthenon and so forth. We started to dig in Hadrian's Villa, the Baths of Caracalla and Diocletian, and find, surprisingly enough, rows of Adam-style chairs and tables and vases. Really? And of course they discovered all this by digging down and studying and going on the grand tour and coming back reporting, and it affected English design for furniture and domestic items from then on. 2 or 3 things were happening. First off, we had a rise in population. Then we also had a rise in their incomes. We were quite wealthy despite the wars. We were really a rich country. We were expanding, trade was good, and there were enough people to be able to follow the new designs. Fortunately, the new designs that came in, instead of being expensive and foliate like this, were relatively simple. And of course it allowed mass production for the first time. Now that's not mass production like machine production. It mainly means that there were a lot of people sitting in a line doing one part of the carving or one part of the silversmithing or whatever industry was.
Big workforce.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So it started to change. And here you can see classical festooned here, a classical serpentine back, almost a shape of a vase, rather than the old shape which we've been looking at now then. Take this one. And within 15 years, that was the shape of a chair, that was the shape of a vase, there's a cup, there's a silver vase, and all inlays and marquetry and design followed that. Now that's a very expensive chair, but imagine that could be made quite cheaply, elegantly. And this was the age of more informal dining, informal living. We had a heat wave, people were wearing lighter clothing. We had global warming, actually. And it affected English furniture. We'll go into that in a minute. So if we look at, that's the main design now then. For the first time we had little breakfast tables like that. Nice little oval breakfast table. Now, cabriole legs gone, right? In comes a swept foot, a reeded leg with a nice little cup caster, oval table. Now this is informal dining. You didn't have a head,
Breakfast table?
A breakfast table.
Yeah.
No lunch tables, by the way. Lunch had already been invented, and it was on the hoof. So you had breakfast tables, dining tables, tea tables, but no lunch table.
Okay.
This is informal dining. You could sit around there as a family or with friends, but nobody sat at the head because you can't get a head on an oval table. You can seat 8 people round that, where you could only seat 6 round the equivalent size of a rectangle. Now then, what I was saying earlier, when you look at a piece of furniture like this is quite an expensive piece. This is worth £10,000, right? You want to make sure that the top belongs to the bottom. And exactly the same as the beginning of the 18th century, when you turn it up, whoops, gone too far. When you turn it up, see that lighter patch?
Yep.
Now that's quality, that's originality. The rest of it is oxidized, where it's been closed, then the air will not have got to it.
And a definite indicator on telling its age as well.
Absolutely, because you can't fake that. You really can't. You can't fake a fading in. It's not possible. You see also that little quadrant there?
Quality.
Okay, absolute quality. It's gilded. Look at these latches here. I mean, double latch to open it. And that has a spring on it. It's a split quadrant. So when you open it, it goes click, and you can't push it down, you know.
So what date is this? This is...
1780.
1780.
1790 at the latest. Just a beautiful proportioned table. The danger is that these were so fashionable in the 1950s, people used to cut down the more common rectangular ones and make them into ovals, right? Thereby increasing the price threefold. Always look around the outside of the edge. Do you see where all these finger marks have been down here?
Yeah.
Well, you can't fake that either. And there are little dents here, okay? Now, those little dents are caused by a young lady screwing her needlework frame onto the side of the table. That little frame, it has like a screw, and it causes that little dent. Now, I have seen oval tables on the market marked up as 18th century Sheraton style oval tables, where these little dents suddenly run out. They disappear.
And that means
means there's a rectangular one
being cut down.
Absolutely.
Great pointer for the viewers, definitely.
Okay. So this was the day of, or the beginning of the little all-in-one sideboard. Instead of the big cupboards with a heater and the cooler, smaller houses. And here we have the taper leg instead of the cabriole leg again. This comes in with what we call a spade foot. We have inlays and stringing rather than carving at the moment. And this is a semicircular back, but you'll notice there's a bar at the back there. This was when you no longer had the staff and the master was carving and serving all his guests himself. He wasn't very good at it, so he used to splash the wallpaper. So they'd hang a curtain on a rail at the back. That's what that's for. It should have a cloth curtain at the back. Just social history. It's all social history. It's so easy. Of course, they did some of the first ones. They would have a heater, you know, to take the place of the cupboard. But unfortunately, it used to catch fire rather a lot.
So they don't do that anymore.
That didn't last too long. So you have a wine compartment, either a drawer or these are faux cupboards. You can see there are hinges there. That actually opens for your condiments and cutlery, and the other side would be a cellarette drawer.
Okay.
Nice little sideboard.
Tin lined or lead lined?
Lead lined, absolutely, absolutely. Nice little sideboard. The first time you see them, and again, the most popular and in demand in the 1950s were always the straight taper legs. Later comes the turned leg, which we'll look at in a minute. Also new pieces of furniture, relatively new from the 1750s, the Dumbwaiter. This is a three-tiered little piece of furniture. Again, in this case with swept legs. The early ones had cabriole legs. The reason they came in was we used to drink so much. The young people drank too much. So nothing's changed.
No, well, exactly, especially with the English folk.
But they became indiscreet. They'd have a big dinner party, 20, 30 people, and they'd put a servant behind each one to look after each guest. And they would get indiscreet, the staff would blackmail them, and something had to be done. They had to change their habits. Either they had to stop drinking so much or get rid of the staff during meal times.
So they got rid of the staff during meal times and came up with a dumbwaiter.
They came up with a dumbwaiter.
Perfect.
Yeah. Little chap used to wheel behind you and they'd take extra plates or whatever. So this is all relatively new furniture. These really caught on in the 1760s, 1770s. You don't find many good ones before that date. The secretaire drawer. Now the big bureau that we have with the sloped fall, that gave way to the secretaire, the French. We didn't like the French very much. We copied everything they did. They're so elegant and so smart. We like their language and everything except them. This opens up.
A bit like on the rugby field.
Well, exactly. This opens up and there's the same use in as much as it has a writing surface when it's open.
Yeah.
Just a very elegant little piece of furniture. And instead of square taper legs, it's got little turned legs there. So that gives that about 1795. So it's these little features give us dating.
The reader, does that sort of help?
Yes,
date it as well?
absolutely. Yeah. And pure classicism. It's just a minute piece of architecture, really. The good hour of the day, the bonheur de jour, satinwood,
beautiful. In
this case, quartered, as you can see. The effect of three dimensions is given by the way the veneers are laid on. This is a totally new piece of furniture. Again, a French name, bonnet de jour. In various types, sometimes you find the top compartment is for books and can be carried from one room to the other. It means it was a piece for a young lady to write in the good hour of the day, her personal notes and so forth, which became an even more popular pastime: painting, drawing, music and writing letters. The bonnet de jour, 1785, perfect example. Now we're looking at satinwood. This is a new type of timber. Up until the 1760s, 1770s, we really used mahogany and some of the walnut that was left, not very much, from the 1720s when they put the embargo on. We'd still got a little left. So exotic timber...
It's got a kingwood look about it, though, from
I
the
was
French.
just going to say, yeah, absolutely. There's kingwood, coromandel, rosewood. Rosewood, incidentally, called rosewood because when cut, it smells sweet.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't ask me the Latin name. I always say it's a branch of a Dumbwaiter tree, but
That's better than me.
Good one, though.
Yeah, definitely.
So all these exotic timbers came in after. So we tend to say the age of oak, the age of mahogany, and the age of satinwood, which encompasses all these new timbers, which never went out of fashion afterwards. Yep. So they formed a big sandwich of materials.
So late 18th century is when it really kicked in.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. So the first decoration was carved in classical form. So there's what we call a transition between 1765, 1770 and 1785, when, as you see in that little picture on the left, it's a paterai, it's carved. By 1785, the same design was created by inlay and marquetry. Now, I just want to break off there and go into, you remember last time we looked at veneers and marquetry? And do you remember this, the floral marquetry?
I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, with sort of foliate designs, okay? Then after the 1775 period, when marquetry came back in, you have it in this pattern. It was all classical. Wow. Same thing applied, the same construction was used, but the designs were in classical form. Now these, in fact, are not 18th century ones. These are revivals from the 1890s. But, I mean, the method is the same. But this was the look. Again, scorching in hot sand just to give this three-dimensional effect.
And this is all from your grandfather's?
Yes, my grandfather's workshop. Yes, he did these. They're quite good, aren't they?
Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Sort of 1890s there.
Yes, the 1890 revival, which we should be dealing with in more detail, when they would put these sort of pieces into plain furniture of the 1790s. Because obviously, it's like the earlier period. There was plain furniture, which was affordable by everybody, and there was the expensive decorated furniture, which was for the wealthy people. You couldn't sell plain furniture in the 1920s, so you embellished it. I'm not saying my grandfather did.
So you enhanced the late
18th
century furniture like this. Fantastic.
And now we call that, I mean, that is actually collectible in its own right. We call that Sheraton Revival.
Sheraton Revival, yeah.
Sure. Very popular.
So Sheraton Revival is embellished 18th century furniture.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And there is an example of...
Stunning.
Oh, yeah, it's a wonderful thing. This is by John Linnell, a famous maker. And it has... I mean, it's like a pattern book, quite frankly. It's got everything in there. Satinwood, harewood, which is sycamore dyed with oxide of iron, goes green. And that would have been like a rainbow. It would be like a paint box, all these different colours. But you've got everything. You've got the classical vase, you've got the swags, you've got paterai. These little classical vases at the paterai, at the top of the column, have got little tiny flowers coming out. And Linnell was famous for that. Also, he employed some Scandinavian workmen. Hence, you get this rather Swedish look. You know. And it's just a combination of everything. And the fan in the top is just unbelievable. And the most beautiful
It would take
quality.
so long to make, though, surely.
Oh, quite a long time.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have taken several craftsmen probably 3 to 4 months to make properly. I know that because there is a foundation in Lisbon where they are exactly reproducing this type of work using the old traditional methods, and it just goes on and on and on. And beautiful when done, but you know.
The cost of this at the time, would it be the price of a car now, sort of thing, for them? Or?
A Rolls Royce now.
Really? Okay.
This was the Rolls Royce of furniture. Extremely expensive. Don't forget, by now, the men that were making this, people like Linnell, people like, I can't think of the name.
But they were commissioned basically, and they had list. They had a list of people that would be they'd have to wait. They'd have to wait for their furniture.
Yeah. And they were extremely wealthy. You know, they had stocks of £300,000-400,000. Of course. Yeah. So there is. Can we stop that? Actually, that would be awful to carry on that.
Okay. Yep.
Can we go back to?
Tell me when to go back to. To Linnell and Linnell.
Move your mic a little bit,
yes, it's a bit tight. Yeah,
it's a really short one. It's really annoying.
That's better.
Who are you trying to think of? Linnell and.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Yes. Can you see John's mic? I leave it like that. Okay.
What the bloody hell are the names?
How do you spell Linnell?
Linnell.
Linnell. William Linnell.
Yes.
Yes.
No, John Linnell.
John Linnell, sorry.
John Linnell.
Yeah.
Who is it that we say, somebody and something, and I can't think of the name, the cabinet by Inson Mayhew.
Inson Mayhew?
Yes,
okay.
yes. Inson Mayhew had a stock of 400,000 quid.
Wow.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I think it's an important point to make.
Yeah.
Where should we pick it up from?
I just stepped in there to brush over it.
What?
When you forgot, I just stepped in there to brush over it. Who am I again? Where am I?
Yeah.
John?
Hello.
Previous slide. Flick to that, and then we'll get started on that.
Yeah, are we doing that again?
No, we've done that.
Okay, we're just going to flick to the next one.
Just going to flick to the next one and then talk about the beauty of that.
Yeah, okay.
I was showing these bits on this, and then he flipped onto the next slide. So I've shown all these. I'm pretty sure.
We could always cut at the economy tab anyway for part one if we had to. Yeah.
Right.
Do you want to start with a new start?
No.
No? Okay.
Right, we're on the slide.
As soon as you go, as soon as you flip the thing, he'll start recording again.
Okay, fine. Now, look at that.
Beautiful.
This is almost like a pattern book of what was going on at the time. 1785, a little commode made by Inson
Linnell.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, and let's go.
Now, look at that. That's a little commode by John Linnell.
Stunning.
And it's almost a pattern book of everything that was going on at the time. He was a very, very well-respected maker, and he employed several Scandinavian craftsmen, because there was a great interplay of craftsmen from America back to here and Spain, right the way around the then known Western world, really. And these designs incorporated in this are probably the best example you'll see of everything. You have this sort of Dutch influence in the top, Scandinavian on the front, and this, of course, shows all the different types of classicism that we look for. The vase in the middle, the swags, the little oval paterae, and then at the end those lovely vases have got little flowers in the top. That's a typical John Linnell. And the other thing is, look at these curious feet here, little square feet, not turned, but little square taper feet. Strange design.
The more you look at it, just every part of it is
carefully thought of.
Yeah.
And it's just got a little turn lock, the door springs open, and underneath is a press button, and the drawer springs forward. When you take it out, the spring is gilded.
Oh, wow.
I mean, this was an expensive bit of furniture.
I mean, how long would it take to make for...
2-3 months. Yeah, several workmen. But they were big workshops. People employed a lot of people. Inson Mayhew, for example, another great company, they had £400,000 worth of stock.
Wow.
I mean, it was enormous business.
In the time, 1760, 1770, when this was made, I mean, how much would it cost a normal person to buy it in this day? So if I was going to, would it be the price of a car, for instance?
Oh, yes. It would probably be a top high-end Bristol or Rolls-Royce.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, yeah, sure. A lot of money. And it had to look like that, and it does look like that. Because there was nothing else to show your wealth with but your house and your furniture and your decorative arts. So anyway, there it is. We're now into the Satinwood period, the inlay period. And for the average person, well, the average middle class and upper person, the squirearchy, furniture now look like this. These chairs have changed totally. And you'll notice that while they are very plain, a little austere, things have changed dramatically. You have uprights, and you have an inside top rail, nothing hanging over the top, a little panel of satinwood, but then this marvellous sort of Grecian shape of a stool or an outline. In there, the little oval paterae. These are chairs which were made literally by the thousand, of varying qualities. These are good quality, but the plainer you get, it's the same with anything else. The plainer, you can have exactly the same shape without any carving or any reading or fluting. And they're still wonderful. I mean, you can still sit in them, still use them. They're good chairs.
It's sort of 1800s?
Yeah. And this is the period of the 6 and 2 or 8 and 2 turned leg dining chairs, 6 and 2 carvers, always 2 of those.
William IV.
Yes, and they went on, and as they got heavier, or as the period went on, the legs got thicker.